pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We need to wish Heidi a happy birthday today. It's her
happy birthday.
So thank you for being here and celebrating with us. Charles, I think it'd be appropriate if we sing for her, huh?
You sing happy birthday?
Absolutely, guys. Bill, would you lead us? We ready? Absolutely.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Heidi. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Heidi. Give her a hug when you see her.
All right, next up, roll call. We are 7 strong tonight. Cell phone communication update. We have Caitlin.
All right, so Travis is the chairman of the board. We do have Kaylin on. Katrina and Bailey are here to kind of give you an update on not only the work they've been doing with individual schools with their communication plan and improvement, but also talk a little bit about what came out of the cell phone committee the other day, which will be, that name will be changing. So Katrina, I'm going to turn it over to you if you can hear us.
Yes, I can. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to join you virtually to talk a little bit today. I just wanted to do a quick update on what Bailey and I have been working on throughout the school district. So we did our audit over the summer of the different communication pros and cons. We then met with the communications committee earlier in the fall and kind of dictated some different things for us to take a look at in regards to what we're communicating, how we're communicating.
We lost
To
me.
kind of delineate what type of data is available. Oh, sorry, can you hear me okay? Yes, okay. But that allowed us to kind of figure out what type of data is available so we can decide how well our communication is working, and also some holes that we had in what that data is, which then equaled my December and January trying to get some different data points that weren't available prior to. And then we also met with a cell phone committee. And so all of that communication has been super, super helpful in deciding what's working well, what's not working so hot, identifying some different commonalities between areas of opportunity in communication. And then just last week, we spent all day Thursday and all day Friday meeting with each individual building, with the exception of Buffalo High School. But we really were able to identify what communication each school is using, how they're using it. Again, we were able to identify areas that really just need a little bit more training on software that's already available, and then different champions of people that are using it really well that we can match with those that need additional training. And then some areas where we may want to look into some different software that could potentially solve some bigger holes that our current software isn't capable of doing. So then the other thing that we did was Thursday night, we met with our cell phone committee for the second time. So we met with them back in December and talked with them in regards to a cell phone policy. And the beginning of that conversation was really just, do we need a district-wide cell phone policy, especially considering every school will kind of have their own policy. But consistency, I think consistency is the key in a lot of elements to include communication as a whole, right? And so we really discussed needing a district-wide policy that kind of gave every school this is the policy that we're then enforcing. We created some action items of reaching out to others within the district, whether it be community members, other faculty, other students, and really identifying what people's thought process was. So then we got together then this past Thursday, and then one decided that cell phone committee applies right now, but doesn't apply to all. As we see technology grow and evolve, it's less so about the cell phone and it's more so about all the other gadgets that can also be distracted, especially in that K-5 group. It's less cell phones that are the problem and maybe more smart devices that are a problem. So our recommendation is going forward. We call this policy a personal smart device policy, less of a cell phone policy. So that will apply to anything that can get a cellular signal or an internet signal that is of personal use that would be a distraction during somebody's academic school day. So what we're really looking forward to is moving forward with an initiative, let's call it a trial run of expectations, to ultimately allow us to test out what this personal smart device policy could look like. It allows us to kind of figure out what's working, what's not, before you as a board would identify an actual policy that would then take place and go into effect later this year or before the beginning of next school year. And it also gives those that would be involved with this an opportunity to say, cool, so this is working, but this isn't, and allow us to kind of adapt and change as needed. So that's kind of where we're at with the personal smart device policy. Before I hop into my last thing, because I promise I don't want to take much of your board meeting, do any of you have any questions on that I can elaborate on?
Questions from the board?
So this is going to take place soon, this personal smartphone
So what
device?
we're working on right now, from our Thursday meeting, put together kind of some different recommendations, some action items, some pieces for us to think through, and a communication timeline, because there's a lot of logistics that have to be figured out by some of these recommendations. And so what we'll be working on in the upcoming weeks is what this expectation, because we're not going to call it necessarily a policy, because it won't be, and it really is a trial run of what this will look like. But what that looks like, whether it be K-12, K through 8, then 9 through 12. So we're still, as a committee, delineating what that will look like, and then we'll present that information to you. But our hope is that come April, we will be trialing a smart device or personal smart device policy, or let's call it an initiative.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So,
So then the other thing I wanted to I apologize. Did I cut someone off?
no, just as a reminder, so the wheels are turning for the directive of the board, looking at developing a cell phone policy. The committees come together, we surveyed the community, just like he said. So, like she said, so we're on track. We're just, one of the part of the plans that we didn't talk about was piloting something at the end of the year, but I think we're to that point. The committee was unanimous in the recommendation to move forward with this initiative, so that when we do develop policy over the summer, like our goal was in August, we are ready to roll and people know what our expectations are. Fair?
Excellent. Yeah, perfect.
Fantastic. So then the last thing I wanted to address is that software piece. So like I mentioned, in just about every single building, there are some identifiers that are kind of common. Inconsistent communication across, whether it be athletics, whether it be different classrooms, whether it be this grade versus this grade, in how faculty communicate with parents and their students, how schools interact with parents and or students, and there are a lot of different softwares that are being used currently throughout the district, and again, inconsistent, right? Two, the difference of like one second grade teacher may use this, and a third grade teacher uses this, or a partner second grade teacher uses a different software. So one of the things that I found during part of my data analysis of different softwares is I met with FD, which is ultimately the company that owns RealShare, and they have a software that is like Remind. So Remind is a two-way communication platform. So one of the downsides is our current software that we're utilizing with FTG and RealShare does not allow two-way communication, right? So they can send out an email, they can send out a text message, no communication can come back, right? Which is why two-way communication is super important. Obviously, we can all think of scenarios where we've needed to communicate back with a teacher outside of email. So they offer a software called Rooms that would sync with Power Schools, that would allow us to utilize the Johnson County School District app, that then all communication, whether it be announcements, two-way communication with my teacher, with my athletics, anything like that would all be in one house. What I would like to get approval from the board on is spending a little bit more time getting into the cost and benefits, and then looking at the difference between what we're paying currently for current two-way softwares, and what those different benefits of what those softwares provide and doing a true comparison of what rooms would then be able to provide us with Aptigee or ThrillShare. Because right now, on a ThrillShare side, only certain people have access to ThrillShare to be able to send out those mass communication. And we want to make sure that every coach, every teacher, everyone had access to this, so could use it in replacement of Remind, Seesaw, Dojo, and all the other software that are currently being utilized within the district right now. Questions, comments, or concerns on that?
So thoughts on this one, board? We good with having her give us this analysis and decide what we're spending now and what we do to synchronize?
So that would be good. So a lot of information they brought to the table was white noise. There's a lot of white noise. People have selected or opted out, so they're not getting text messages anymore. So that's where some of this confusion is. So going to one platform, what she would do is gather that information, then work with Connie and the tech department to see what softwares get replaced or doesn't get replaced, and just be a unified. And then there would have to be a PR piece. We'd have to go out to parents and say, look, this is where we're going to be next year. There's training involved on both ends. But again, this is still just initially an investigation or research, shouldn't say investigation, research into what the best practices are with what our purpose was, is improving communication between the stakeholders and the community and the district. So
Sure.
it's just moving the needle a little bit further.
Sounds excellent to me. All right, let's do that.
So, Mr. Chairman, one question I would have is, what is your timeline to get back to us on the cost and implementation of it?
So the expectation is actually to have that to you within about a week. I have some preliminary numbers from the company already because I've already sat through a couple of different demonstrations. However, I am fully in the thought process of those are initial estimates and that I can probably work through those estimates a little bit more. But again, I didn't want to spend that time and go down that route if this wasn't an avenue you guys were interested in exploring.
Other questions or thoughts, anybody?
So I guess the goal is, because she's going to have to work with Connie and technology through this process, it would be something that they put all this into place and we would have a discussion at the next board meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Sure.
Beautiful. The only other thing I wanted to add as a caveat is this software is obviously a little different than everything else. So not only on a PR side of training our parents, but we'll have to have a very extensive personal or professional development for all the staff and faculty on how to use that as well. So that'll all be built into what I present as kind of a timeline of what that will look like, so you truly know what the expectations are for that onboarding process.
Okay,
Beautiful.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else we need, gang? Good to go? All right, thanks you guys, we appreciate you being here.
Thanks. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
All right. Next up, parent liaison update.
All right, so you guys are up.
You. Hard to follow the professional communicators,
Communicator,
but
it's always fun.
we'll do our best. My name is Demetra Dugal, and I'm the Parent Liaison Program Manager at Compass Center for Families.
I'm Kim Pope, the Parent Liaison for the Johnson County School District Number 1.
And we currently serve, when I say currently, I always want to think of the future, but we currently serve all families in K through 5 schools in the school district. I'm very passionate about this program. I was the parent liaison at Sheridan Junior High School for 3 years before transitioning to managing the program. It's my 3rd year in Sheridan County School District 2 and my 2nd year in Johnson County School District 1. Now, a little history about the program. It was developed 30 years ago in Bozeman, Montana. It was a public and private partnership between a nonprofit there, Thrive, and their public school system. And it's informed by years of research that shows that when parents are engaged in their children's education, those children are successful. And I'm just going to share a short quote from some of that research with you from Henderson and Mapp. They say, parent engagement is the #1 indicator of a student's academic success. Regardless of income or family background, students with engaged parents are more likely to earn higher grades, perform better on tests, attend school regularly, get promoted, graduate, and attend post-secondary education. These students are also more likely to have better social skills, display improved behavior, and be well adapted to school. This program is also embedded in Livingston, Montana, and Belgrade, Montana, and Compass has served as its leader in Wyoming for 10 years now. Thrive, the nonprofit in Bozeman, provides us with a detailed implementation manual, and we follow the program to fidelity. They provide us with extensive annual training and supervision, and I supervise with a manager up in Thrive on a weekly basis and other program managers bi-weekly. Cindy, my supervisor, and Superintendent Oski, and Tiffany Reeser at Compass Center for Families, our executive director, we meet on a monthly basis to develop goals, see where we're doing, and also your parent liaison, Kim Pope, she and I supervise on a weekly basis and also as a PL team across both counties. The mission of our program is to create strong partnerships between schools and parents to ensure success for all children. Parent liaisons are neutral facilitators. They work for Compass and they support the connection between home and school. As you may know, some families may have had a bad experience with schools or are uncomfortable with school personnel, and that's why we're here as that neutral facilitator. And our liaisons provide support to all families because parenting is hard and all families need support at some time. Kids are part of a family system, and if the family is struggling, then it is impacting that student and their ability to succeed in the classroom. Liaisons, they connect families to both school supports and supports outside of school, and they provide parent education opportunities. Right now, Kim Pope is facilitating a free Love and Logic class with free childcare at Meadowlark Elementary, and it's going very well. But parent education is more than taking a class. It's having informal conversations with parents and asking them, hey, what are you seeing at home? This is what the school is seeing. How can we partner together? She asks questions, she's a listening ear, and she really helps the parent to develop a plan that they're comfortable with and really brainstorm some solutions. And now our next slide, Heidi, please.
I got you.
Oh, whoa,
I don't
fancy.
got you, Heidi.
No. And here is the data from last year. And this was only from year 2. 169 families received information and support from the parent liaison. And of those parents, 31 families representing 69 children worked with their parent liaison on an ongoing basis, meaning they had contact with the liaison 3 or more times. Some families only need maybe assistance once, but some may need a little more support over the course of the school year. 155 families received a welcome call from their parent liaison. Kim reaches out to every new family in the school district, every kindergarten parent, if it's a 3rd grade parent at Cloud Peak, or at KC, and just says, hey, how are you doing? She's an ambassador for the school district. Hey, do you have any questions? Do you know who to ask? And that's her role in the welcome call. 2 parents participated in parent education, and this year we more than tripled that number. She's got 7.
Yeah, that's 7.
It's actually big for Johnson County. Kim also is the leader of our parent education program at Compass, and she teaches a variety of classes and curriculums. So this actually 7 might sound small to you, but it's a huge number for Johnson County, and we are excited to see that grow. 28 parents participated in parent enrichment classes offered by Compass Center for Families. And last year, 243 referrals were made to community or school resources. And looking at those referrals, 133 of them were for concrete supports like food, gas, clothing, rental assistance. There were 18 health and medical referrals, 2 mental health referrals, 19 school resources, 59 community referrals, and 12 parent enrichment referrals. And preliminarily, this year I pulled some data from January 1st, and these numbers are only growing. This year so far in January, Kim had connected with 37 families representing 74 children in the community so far January 1st. And now I would like to invite Kim Pope to just tell you a little story, an example of a family that she has been working with this year. Kim?
Thank you for your time and letting me come up here and just tell a little story. I had several, and it was kind of hard to narrow it down to get the impact of what this rule is. And in September, I met with a mom, and her family just moved to Buffalo, and they were struggling, as many struggle with housing. Housing's an issue in our county, and so we did a lot of talking, and we were able to. Moving here, she didn't know what resources they were. You can live here a long time and not know what resources we have available. So really talking and sitting down with her between the PL program and our community service block grant, and the Salvation Army and the VOA and the Catholic Church referrals, we were able to get them stabilized into a home. And that's a great start. That's one of the aspects that help children do better in school is some stability there. After we were able to get them there, Mom was able to start on a career path. This went from cleaning motel rooms to now we're working on a career. So there was another step in a great direction for that family. I keep in contact with her all the time because I care about what's going on in her world. And through all of this, we were able to get her on the McKinney-Vento program. The school worked really hard to get that program going. That's an amazing program. And this program didn't help them just at the beginning when we first met. It continued, as you're going to hear through this story. And so through the Langston Family Foundation and the Bread of Food, our food pantry, we were able to get them healthy meals, make sure they were getting friends feeding friends every week. Those three setups of making sure not only now we have our housing taken care of, we have some food in our home. And so then holiday season came around, and I don't know how many of you got to see the actual numbers that went out for our holiday time. It was huge. We set this family up at Thanksgiving. We had the hub here in Buffalo donated a full Thanksgiving meal for this family. At Christmas, we got them into the Compass Care and Share program, which provided their family with gifts. So that was another less stress they had to worry about. We came back from Christmas and one of her children's glasses broke. That's a big deal. Insurance covered one for that year. So Mom gets the phone call of your child's glasses where they broke, and I don't know right now how I'm gonna get a new pair. Okay, well, the school started working on it, and go Meadowlark, man, that group came together and they were willing to do all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, let's think outside the box here. I called Anna Burbank, our McKinney-Vento contact person. She said, let me get back to you. She got back to me and said, yes, we will cover those. Myself and Ashley, the school nurse at the schools, and Lisa Stein, the Meadowlark counselor, got Mom on the phone and said, this is what we want to do. You give us permission to reach out to the eye doctor and start that process. She approved that. Ashley went and got examples of frames, like 3 or 4 different ones, brought them, fitted them on the little person, took them back down. They got the frames, they got the glasses, the call came in, Lisa ran down and got them, and now the little person has his glasses. Now that doesn't seem like such a big deal for people who have the insurance to just go in right away and get them fixed, but for this family it was huge. For this little guy's education, that was huge. And it took a team effort to think outside the box and wrap around that family. And so I checked in with her just the other day just to see how life is going and how is things with the schools. She's like, they're great. Meadowlark and Cloud Peak are wonderful. And so building that relationship with her took time, months, but it's been worth that battle for her to know that the school's got her back and it's there for her.
Thank you so much, Kim. You did a great job of illustrating what teamwork and partnerships we have both within our school district, but also with our outside partners. You know, the VOA, the Salvation Army, Bread of Life, all of this community coming together to support this child in their education. I want to just, Kim mentioned the Langston Family Fund, and I must tell you that They are providing support to children who are participating in the Parent Liaison Program, any K through 5 students across 5 categories, and that would be food, clothing, school supplies, any outstanding school lunch balances, or Boys and Girls Club scholarships. So they are a great new partner this year, and we are so happy to have them. Another thing I think that this story illustrated reminds me of a quote one time a school administrator said to me, said, "We as a school, we tell parents that we care about their kids, but this program shows them that we care." And that just really hits me in the heart. And so I thought I would share that with all of you. And this slide, so at the end of each year, we survey all teachers of the schools we serve. And of the school district last year, 92% of teachers said that they would recommend the program. And here are a couple of quotes from them. "This has been a game changer in our school. Very impressed and thankful for the support. The intervention and support has reduced my workload and has created better relations with some of our most at-risk families." And then secondly, "One of my students' families received much needed support in many ways with glasses and other resources. And the parent liaison was also a valuable resource for the school to have a positive point of contact, a mediator somewhat between school and families." And that's exactly why we're here. On the next slide, please. And we also surveyed parents that were worked with 3 or more times, and here are a couple of quotes from that survey. "She gave me moral support, helped get things we needed like blankets, finding a sponsorship for a car repair. She supported me through my struggles." And then, "She has helped me with food and gas cards, assistance with shoes and clothes for my kids, offered to attend meetings involving my son, helped us find programs to help pay our rent when we were looking at being homeless." And we heard these 2 comments and so many more from those surveys. On our last slide, I just need to highlight the partners that are making this possible. One missing logo, I'll have to say, right now is Powder River Energy Corporation. They donate to Compass, but they specifically donated to the PL program in Johnson County. So if you know anyone on that board, please thank them. We could not do this without them. And so here, this last slide really illustrates the partnerships that were developed to keep this program in place. And our Compass Executive Director, who's not here tonight, Tiffany Reeser, she secured 2 key grants. I'd like to thank the John P.L. Bogan Foundation for their contribution, as well as the Mildred and Homer Scott Foundation for their contribution. And lastly, on behalf of myself, Compass, the program, I have to thank you trustees. I have to thank Superintendent Oski, who has been a big supporter. Our K through 5 principals, Lori Graves, Jake Evans, Maggie Lambert, for inviting us into their schools and partnering us to provide the support to the family and children in Johnson County School District 1. And if anyone has questions, we welcome them.
Just kidding.
Mr. Chairman, please. So I'm a new person in town. I've got kids, but maybe I missed the call from the school. How do I know that you exist, or how do you advertise that, other than the school giving you a number and you trying to contact them?
So if you are new, I'm gonna hear that you are new. So I'm gonna immediately reach out to you first and say, hey.
So you're going to get the number through the school system, is that correct?
Yep. And I'm gonna call and I'm Kim, I'm the parent liaison for your child's school. I want to welcome you to Meadowlark School and let you know that I'm here for any support. These are the supports I can offer. And even if you just need someone to talk to because you're new in town, let's go have a cup of coffee, whatever it may be. As you can tell, I'm a talker, so
Well, thank
I'll
you.
keep doing it.
We also put out marketing materials
Yes.
to all of our families too, and we have wonderful staff that does say, hey, when they're listening to families, whether it's a teacher or a school counselor or principal, hey, a lot of families struggle with that. Did you know that we have someone in our district, Kim Pope, she's the parent liaison, who helps families with, scenarios like this. Would it be okay if she gave you a call? Because that opens the door. People, for various reasons, might feel uncomfortable with sharing, but we found that even just word of mouth and is a big factor too, or families even tell other families, hey, you know, have you worked with him? You know.
I get lots of phone calls that so-and-so, my friend so-and-so told me to call you.
Call you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies, for the work you do.
Yeah,
We appreciate it.
Just so I'm gonna just give the spiel. They're doing an amazing job. So according to Thrive and how they've introduced this into other communities, we are well ahead of an introductory program that's happened in other communities, and a lot of that has to do with the people that are doing the work. So thank you for all the work you are doing, because it is making a difference.
And I love
Thank you. Okay. Next on, we've got Ride and Whitney Benefits Initiative. Right, Bill.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Evans. Several months ago, it's beyond several months ago now, it's probably closer to 6 months ago when I brought Jake in and said, hey, you want to take on this and be the representative for JCSD #1 with this collaboration between 3 school districts, Sheridan College, the governor's office, and whoever else wants to join at some point. So I'm going to turn it over to Jake.
Well, you gotta join the ride, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so at first I'd like to just bring up this board report. If you guys happen to have any questions over that, I'd love to answer that first because I'd like to take a little more time to dive into youth science and address some of that more exciting stuff. So would you guys have any questions over the RIDE initiative with 2 revs or Whitney benefits? I can give you a flyby real quick.
Yeah.
What you want?
Give us a quick breakdown.
Okay, I'll give you a flyby. Actually, we have 2 people in the back room right now that spent some time with Whitney benefits. Michelle Dahlberg and Andrew Virgelli today spent time working with other job coaches in the other 3 districts, talking about what work-based learning looks like. And so with Whitney benefits right now, we're looking at what it looks like for K through 16 education-wise in meeting in 3 different areas. One is, what is our focus for work-based learning when we have kids at the high school level? The next one that we have is, how do we engage engage businesses, kindergarten through 16? And when I say 16, I mean, college.
Yeah.
So we're looking at ways and means to get businesses engaged at every level along the way. One of those pieces is a pilot that's going on with Weatherby right now. Weatherby has a structured presentation, depending upon what grade level, to engage young people with. And so that exposure of the business to students is happening at a much younger age. So that's one of the things that this initiative has. And the other one was a pathway creation. So basically, as a student enters our school system, when they get into that 9th grade range, they can start to see, what classes would I need to take in high school to move me over into health sciences or drift off over into manufacturing and business and industry. And so they're working on that right now, and that's what Whitney Benefits is doing. So circling back to work-based learning, our goal is to build backwards, and our 2 great job coaches in the back room here spent time today talking a little bit about what that looks like between each of the districts. And the next time they get together, they're actually going to bring their forms that they use for their internships and go through them and kind of look at what's common, so that we can kind of make a common practice across the 2 counties. So that's Whitney Benefits. And then let's jump into RIDE Initiative. The RIDE Initiative is done with the governor's office, and it's through a company called 2 Revs. And our district, by the way, I'm really proud of our district. We have 13 teachers engaged in that over 2 cohorts. I think that's more than all the other districts combined. So what you witnessed at the last board meeting with Billy and Amy, we have 11 more teachers going through that process, which is awesome. Okay, I visited with Vishali and Bethany from 2 Revs over last week about how can we continue this work once the Governor's RIDE initiative ends. I had some great news. We have a cohort 3 and a cohort 4 scheduled, so that'll happen next year. And then in that conversation, they were willing to give us support to make our own summer institute here at JCSD 1 after that, to keep that work that you saw going so that all teachers would get a taste of it. So that's some great
That
news.
is exciting.
And so our goal, or my goal, is to make sure that we have a cohort 3, cohort 4, and then also build a summer institute to keep it rolling forward for all teachers. Additionally, today we had our ELA teachers from 4 districts together working on embedding English credit into an internship, what that looked like, and how could we offer that credit. I was so impressed with them. They worked on 3 performance assessments. So what you saw with Billy and Amy, that was 1 performance assessment with all those key components. They built 3 for senior English, basically, to slip into an internship. So it makes it to where all the ELA that we learn and what we do with ELA is meaningful. So again, another avenue to where kids could earn credit through a work-based.
Sure, we go get some experience too. That's awesome.
So that's what's going on with 2 Revs and the RIDE initiative. Do we have any questions over that? There was a flag.
This,
Thank you.
it's good.
All right, so we'll jump into something a little more fun. How many of you guys have done
Jake,
your?
just a real question. So
Yeah.
is Whitney on board with helping support that too, correct?
Yes.
Continuing the journey. So we don't want to forget to announce that Whitney is a big supporter of this process too.
Whitney's kind of a very important cog in the whole process because they have been the ones that have been bringing the districts together for this work. And so that investment from Whitney benefits to make this work move forward is great. I'm not going to put words in other people's mouths, but it would not surprise me down the road if something needs to happen, Whitney benefits would be there to help support it.
Absolutely.
So we're going to jump into a presentation. How many of you guys have taken your youth science aptitude testing?
I've got it started, but not finished.
I got it started and not finished.
Started? It's kind of intense, isn't it?
I did it, yeah.
You did the whole thing?
Mhm.
All right, Reed, that's awesome.
I'm a liaison.
You're a liaison.
Yeah.
That would probably be a good thing to be a board member, huh?
Yes.
So you completed your entire aptitude test. How long did it take you?
Don't scare them off.
Less than 2 hours, probably more than 1.
Okay, that sounds about right.
I wasn't paying much attention. It was,
Did the whole test.
I mean, there was 11 things, and I think the longest one was 15 minutes. Some of them were 7 minutes, some were 5. So
And did it feel like it nailed you pretty good?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I've taken lots of these before, and it's right in line with the other ones I've taken. So
Awesome. Well, if you haven't had the opportunity, I encourage you, please take the aptitude test. It's not painful. Reed made it through.
I may have to get him to Tudorus, though. We'll
You
see.
might have to.
You gotta go in your own room.
You do. That is. You
You
cannot
have any of this
It's a
business
focus.
going on.
have any noise. Give yourself some quiet time. Please take your aptitude test because it is exciting to look at the results. It really is kind of entertaining. So we're going to jump into what youth science is. And our goal here is to figure out what our aptitude is. Now, aptitude is different than interest. Aptitude is your innate abilities that you're just wired with. So you have natural talents, and this testing actually takes it and exposes it for you. It tells you this is what it is. Now, interests change. If you were to ask me when I was in high school what I was going to end up wanting to be or whatnot, it all depended on factors of how long do I need to go to education, how much schooling do I need, and does English involve with any of that education at all? Because my English class at that time I did not like. So that was interest based, and I was looking for what was flashy and fun, right? Had nothing to do with my aptitude at all. Guess what? I ended up instead of going to school for 2 years, I ended up going to school for 6. Because what I thought my interest was not what matched my aptitude. What we get to do here is actually take a self-discovery here, and we figure out what your aptitude is. And then, with that, we're not thinking about academic success with it. We're actually thinking about how you're wired and what you do, and why you think the way you think. It has nothing to do with your ACT score. It has nothing to do with your GPA. Has everything to do with your innate abilities. So what are the benefits? Well, it's going to show you what you're naturally good at. It's going to give you some pride in what you can do too. So you're going to actually enhance your self-esteem, and it's going to unlock your potential for career growth because it's going to start showing you what classes and interests you should probably think about doing because you're naturally wired to do that. Then let's do that measurement process. So how does science actually measure? And so Reed, you've had this experience. There's actually 9 critical aptitudes, but it's done through 11 different assessments. So it's going to assess you through 11 different assessments, your 9 critical areas for aptitude. And then based on that, they figure out what your fundamental skills are. There's a core assessment structure, which you guys all get that opportunity to experience. And it's going to be, like you said, about 5 minutes to 10 minutes. Those are what those are tailored to. And they're not, academic is a little bit on the vocabulary side. There is a vocab piece in there, but there's also a piece where matching numbers or figuring out what shapes fit together. So spatial awareness. You assess your results at any time. The cool thing about U-Science, and I'm trying not to be a used car salesman here, but U-Science works after the student has graduated. It stays with them. Right now, they recommend, they are for sure able to say that the student can access it for 10 years. They have students that have taken this and worked with this and are still accessing it 20 years later. So this is not something that we give our kids. It's only for us. It's actually for the students. And it gets to follow them into their life. So let's say 5 years down the road, if they still don't know what they want to do, they can go back in here and go, well, what other career would fit my aptitude? So that's the cool thing about this. Used car salesman here. Outcomes of your science results. Here we go. So we can tailor our careers. The cool thing about this is it goes all the way down to the 6th grade. And it has a process of kind of a timeline of what you should do at each grade level. And so we start to build all the way down there in 6th grade, kind of that what you're naturally wired to do type thing. And then once we get into high school, we can start to look at our essential tools for career preparation. And so that would be course planning when we get to high school. It has additions in there, like a resume builder. It has the ability for us to link businesses with students for internships. So there's a lot of other avenues that open up once you get into high school, and it kind of stair steps as we get towards 11th and 12th grade. So the other piece is we can match us with some careers that would be good for us. There's over 500 different careers built into this system, so they can see different kind of the outline of what each career has to offer, the education that's required, kind of your day-to-day routine, those pieces. And then understanding the career dynamics, how it'll show you your salary ranges, your projected job openings for that as well. So we're going to dive into one. This is actually mine, just so that you guys can see it. And then if you have any questions, we can answer any of those.
Jake is a used car salesman.
Yeah, used car salesman. Tires are good, I promise. Okay, so when you log in as a student, this is the dashboard that comes up for them. As you can see, there's different areas. We're just going to dive into the aptitude and career discovery piece. But there is industry certifications. So there's over 200 industry certifications that are recognized. If our CTE teachers choose to go down the route of using these certifications, they're like, yes, that's good enough, I will be applying to the state to have these accepted so that every student will come out industry recognized credential. So that's in there as part of the program. Education Connection is with higher learning. So what higher learning avenues we have. The cool thing is our local colleges are the first ones that pop up. So a lot of times when we have one of these career pathway things, you go in there and you search for a school to go to, and it pops up with one on the East Coast or West Coast or in Arizona, and you're like, well, that's not close. this actually pops up our local colleges first. It's kind of nice that way, you know? And then we have the work-based learning experience, so that is an avenue to where we can match students with the work-based learning experience. And then last but not least, we have career connections. So that's basically businesses on the other end of this. We're working with businesses to actually build a depository of businesses that would like to be a part of U-Science. They can actually advertise on this so we can link students, which is kind of cool. So we'll jump into my aptitude. I was kind of scared at first because I have, when I was looking at my best fits, a couple came up that I was like, I never even thought of that. But then I got to drilling down and I realized that, yeah, this does kind of fit me. So when we look at overall fit, what's popped up, this is my overall fit, and you'll notice that the green it says strong fits. Okay, that's taking my interest and my aptitude together and saying, okay, you probably would do pretty well in this area. Okay, so yeah, obviously exercise physiologist, chiropractor, veterinarian, water. Does it say ag teacher on there?
It didn't find it yet.
It wasn't there, was it? That's what kind of scared me. Okay, so then I came over and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to look at aptitude, and I really like education. So where should I be there? So if I just choose my aptitude and my education, that's the area I'm going to be in. You'll notice that a lot of professions pop up here. I could be an economics professor, business professor, health specialist professor. And guess what? I do get to be a secondary teacher. It fits. Yes. Okay, so it does fit me. So then let's say I want to be a secondary teacher. That's what or a middle school teacher. Lord help us. Right? So this tells me a day in the life of a middle school teacher. The cool thing, it comes down and tells me the tasks.
Because no one has told me it's like being a mom very accurate.
It tells you how does this career fit you. So it shows what my aptitude is, and then the typical aptitude ranking for it. So I can figure out, does this career kind of fit me? Does it interest me? From here, then I can start looking for education. Where do I need to go to school? That type of stuff. How does it match my my interests? Well, obviously I'm not very artistic. So I need to work on that if I decide to go become a middle school teacher. So that's U-Science right now. We're just scratching the surface. We have training coming up for our counseling team. We'll be having middle school and high school, at all three high schools as well as middle school, going through some training for the counselors. Eventually, we'll unpack it to our CTE teachers so that we can start having them work with this as well. And I would like to see it to where our seniors get an opportunity to actually take their aptitude with them. So, any questions?
You're just like Reed, you crushed it. I can tell you.
That's what it said, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll get all the way back there.
So as a board, I just want to say a big kudos to Jake. You can see his passion he has in what this is. You know, we talked about Whitney kind of keeping it top secret, and then we broke it out, and this is where we were. It actually started with Jake. With not even in this area, we were talking more about Perkins grants, and then it just started taking direction and started rolling into motions. And this is exciting because it's not only the governors, it's not only Whitney, but we got industry. Jay can speak more to that, but we got some industry people that are really feel that eventually down the road they'll be the financial support for some of these programs because they want kids with interest in their areas and work. So it's that collaborative community piece that gets me more excited. So Jake, great job.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Thank you.
Any note for U-Science, industry and business? If we get this rolling right, we can actually use it as an advertising tool
for industry and business to come here. Because we can say we have students that have aptitude in these areas.
Offer training to help them succeed in that
Right.
field.
And actually, the research also shows that industry is going to pay for this down the road because they find the interest in it so much. So,
That's awesome.
Jake, you haven't, Mr. Chairman, Jake, Mr. Evans, you have not presented this to the students yet, correct? Have you had any students take it?
I haven't had any students take it yet.
It'll
Nope.
be interesting to see how it turns out.
I actually was, after taking it myself, I was going to pay the $40 or $50 to have my daughter take it.
Yeah.
She's a senior this year graduating, and I was like, man, this would be a help for her.
There you go. Get a guinea pig tested on us first.
Why not?
Make sure it was safe.
Scared to take it.
all right. Thanks, Mr. Evans.
Right on. All right, next up, additions or exceptions of the agenda. Everybody happy with what we set up at the work session?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to enter the consent agenda portion.
So moved. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We've got a motion, Mr. Bellis a second, and that's in discussion. Anybody got discussion on consent agenda items today?
Mr. Chairman, I do.
Please.
So as I went to the meeting, the parent meeting that they had at the high school concerning the sports program, the things I walked away with are, do we have a process, and what is a process, and where would I find it at? And about a year ago, we discussed we were going to do a conduct for coaches, and I don't know if we ever got done with that because I haven't seen it.
So the uniqueness to that, so that's a great question, Dave.
And I want to say, Charles, I'm not saying this because I agree with what you guys did for the most part, because you had to do what was best for students. You were put in a bind. This is something that has never happened before, but we also have to understand that any one of us could get run over by a bus, and we do need to have a process. So sorry to interrupt you.
Well, so the uniqueness, yeah, absolutely. And I stand 100% solid behind the decision that was made in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But yet I also recognize that there's a bunch of community members that don't feel that I made a good decision. But the reality is, we had a situation, I put certified coaches that have been in our system, been going through the Don Julian training, and I placed them, didn't place them. They volunteered after being asked. And the celebration for me is we had coaches in place, coaching kids on game day on Friday, and we did it in 3 days.
Good turnaround.
Okay, for the board to develop a policy or for even to develop procedures predicting that we're ever going to go through this again, I'm going to say this is one of the most unique situations nationwide and in the state of Wyoming. I have the right to do that. I did that with special ed. I did that with Cloud Peak. I think both of those placements,
Turned out awesome.
both of those people that I placed in those positions were positions that have they've excelled. And so for me as a superintendent, the integrity and what I did was very intentional to put the right people in the right place. There are so many cards that the public can't know that would have fell so many different ways that even though the opinion is it's not, they didn't know everything behind the scenes, nor will I talk about that in public.
No, that's good.
And I'm not going to, because I made the right decision in support of what Ryan and Gibb and everybody at the high school did through that process. So again, it's a perception, but I am solid with what we did. The interview processes, we are still working with HR. And by the way, HR and legal counsel were involved from 5 minutes after I got the phone call till we got through the process. So the interview process, yeah, that's changing. I wouldn't say changing, it's actually being more consistent across the district. So we are currently, Connie's been a part of that process with me. There's a new pamphlet being worked out that we check off with that. So the interview process is going to be more that it wasn't, but more consistency across the district on how we're hiring people. So that is a progress that's in place. The coach's handbook and things of that was an initiative for the year. That is something that's rolling. With that, I actually just did a survey with KC, Buffalo High School, and the middle school, kind of where we're at with that process. and we can talk about that, what that looks like in the coaching handbook. In the 3 years I've been here, we've implemented some different things, trying to be consistent with evaluations across the board. We've tried to get the parent communication piece, which, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and bluff you and say it's been perfect out of the chute, but it is working. Work in progress. Is that a fair way of stating what that looks like? So
Yes.
That's another area that we continue to move the needle. Part of that is why Don Julie's in the district. I mean, that was a directive by me to bring Don in, starting to work with students and coaches, and that is a new process to the district. So we are attempting to change some of that, but I got to say, uniqueness-wise, a head coach stepping down in the middle of the season is not something that I would encourage you as a board to have to develop policy and procedure on because it's so rare. But you have that right if you want to. Yep.
Thanks for the explanation.
Yep. No?
Mr. Chair.
Please.
Charles, I'd just like to commend you on your diligence of doing what was best for students in the time frame that you had. I know that in July, and we can all go back and look at the initiative that Charles put out. There was a parent code of conduct, a athlete code of conduct, a coach code of conduct, and through this process that we're going through, we're seeing inconsistency. And so I will again commend you for going back to that process that we approved as a board and appreciate all your hard work that you did. Yeah. And thank you for putting the kids first.
And I think these are great questions. I mean, if we don't answer the questions now and we don't answer them in public, we're not going to. So this is a great question. It's a good place to be. Not a great place to be because you never want to have to go through that scenario of events. But in the scenario of events and the sequences that were handed, I think everybody involved did the best they could with what they had in the process. So it is and I know that here comes that word process again. But if you don't know school systems, there's processes. Okay. And that's kind of where we're at. So thank you, and it's just being open to the public, and this is where we're answering the questions. So fair? Perfect.
Anything else? Consent agenda-wise? Anyone? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as passed or presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Okay. Next up, action items. Policy revisions, first reading. We've got 4 of them, pretty detailed. Let's start with a motion, please, for policy IKF, graduation requirements.
Mr. Chair, just a reminder, this is a first reading.
Right.
So if there's any suggestions, we can still come back and make changes.
Take those up.
So I'll make a motion to approve policy IKF dealing with graduation requirements on first reading.
Got a motion and a second? Dave and Marcia? Okay. Policy IKF, board discussion. We've talked about this a time or two.
So, Mr. Chairman,
please.
As I read in there, and I want to try to find it where it was, but some of the things that maybe gave me a little bit of heartburn about it were the eligibility application needs to be turned in by March of your junior year. And so I thought, when I was...
Point of clarification.
Policy, yes.
This is the next policy.
The first one is the graduation requirement.
Oh, yeah. You great catch there, Larry.
Yeah, but we will come right back to that, I promise.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is credit hour numbers and the adjustments that we're proposing.
Okay, gotcha, sorry.
Yeah, no worries, we'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody got questions, comments on this initial?
So, Mr. Chair,
Please.
what you see in here is part of the feedback, and more importantly, at the very end is what that transition will look like. But you see a lot more definitions.
Yes.
Through this process. When I sat down with building leadership, is clearly identifying some terms or definitions that has been really added to the policy. Part of what really the initiation was at the very top was the number of credits, and that's how it works out with what that looks like.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one was district level graduation honors.
Yes.
That's something, again, 28 credits versus 32. Again, that's the minimum, but need to at least complete 28. It's just all in conjunction with that reduction. So,
okay.
The rest of it is just a lot of definitions that came to the table through this conversation, and then what that transition period looks like over the next until 2029.
Yeah, how do we move through that?
Yep.
Questions or thoughts on this one? Anybody got anything? Seems like what we've talked about previously to me. All right, hearing no more discussion, all in favor of approving IKF graduation requirements as presented, signify by saying aye. First reading, aye. All opposed, say no. Righto, we will push that one back. Okay, next, IKFA, early graduation. Now I need a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve IKFA on first reading.
Okay,
Second.
got a motion and a second. Dave and Reed.
Okay, so back to
Now
back to my
discussion, please,
comments. I'm
Dave.
sorry, I got ahead.
No, you're good, you're good.
But my concern was, gave me a little heartburn, is, like I say, so you have to let them know in March of your junior year if you want to graduate early. And I think and I know there's a special provision in there, but my thoughts were, as a junior, I don't know that I would have known that I wanted to do that. If maybe I wanted to go to the military, or I wanted, and then you have to have, if I read it correctly, I have to have a letter of intent from a potential place that I'm going to work. I mean, it seems like we're way ahead of where we should be, but maybe there's something I don't understand about that. So
I thought we talked about this at one time.
So,
yeah,
Mr. Chair,
doing that.
everything that's in here was the direction from you as a board as a whole.
Yes.
So your expectations about timelines, timeframes, what needs to be in that was a discussion we did at one point in time have. But again, if you as a board want to come back to the table and have that discussion, but I think some of the I know what the concerns of the board was, is just early graduations popping up. What does that look like? Just having more of a consistent time frame and protocol. Kids that are on track and working with the counselors, which counselors do a great job, if they're already on track their freshman and sophomore year taking extra credits, they should know that they're applying for early graduation.
As they're plotting their senior year classes.
I was just also sensing some frustration that sometimes we would have an agenda and then Monday would be added early graduation. So I just tried to establish timelines according to your direction. And that's kind of what's outlined here with you as a board of trustees.
Okay,
That was a non-negotiable that I said at the policy meeting, because that was my interpretation of what you wanted, but we can always change it after the first reading if we need to.
Well, have the policy committee look at that, visit with the principals, and make sure that this timeline is going to function as we.
So Marcia, I did miss the question, and maybe you guys discussed it at that, or maybe in the policy.
I just remember talking about this, and Michelle, maybe you could help a little bit, but when juniors are in that, second semester, do you have a good idea of who's going to want to? Do most people know by then, or
Yeah,
not?
most of the students do, because as they're selecting their senior classes, they have to double up on some of the coursework that they want to take. Our goal is still to get them to be halfway qualified.
Yep.
So several of those kiddos that graduated early for us this year, they were taking 2 math classes, 2 English classes. Most of them double up in science as juniors. But as we start their class selection here in a few weeks, I have a pretty good idea of the handful of kids that have told me they'd like to graduate early, so then we can make sure we double check all their credits and make sure that we're getting as qualified for as much opportunity after they graduate as possible.
Excellent.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
So as outlined in the policy, the part that they took out, I guess I just need a little bit of clarification. So it states in the previous that it's in that all these dates, the application letter in accordance with the dates is in the student handbook. So it is in the handbook. Will all of these new requirements that the policy committee come up with, will those be within the handbook?
So
And I'm just going to add on to it, and you can just answer it all in one. So this is first reading, so it'll come back to us at second reading, which will be after March 1st. So my question is, what will it look, or how will it affect those 2026 grads? Just knowing that we're asking them to come by March
So one of
first,
the
but it'll
things
be
I wanna
after
add to
if
the
we
table
approve it.
came through the discussions, we'll probably have a discussion, I know we'll have a discussion, I'll probably have a discussion about doing a transition period, just like we did with
Okay.
with that. So that's a topic that, again, we wanted to go through first reading. It'll probably be something that's added before second reading, is maybe there's a transition period with early graduation or what that looks like, so we're not missing anybody. The intent is not to put anybody in a bind. So if there needs to be a transition period with Dr. Hanson, who actually brought that to the table, we'll add that and bring that back to you for second reading. The other part, Lynette, as the vice chair, just so everybody understands, after policy is created, then the schools will go back and update their handbooks according to this, okay?
It just stated in the policy that it was
It
actually
would
in the
be there.
handbook, so then it didn't, in the new piece, it didn't say that, so I just wanted to be sure
Yep.
that was. And then, I'm along the lines with Dave, you know, and Marcia, we did talk about it, and, so I understand, you know, that we have to have those letters of intents, whatever they're gonna do later. But I guess we do have a caveat in there that there will be extenuating circumstance. And so I guess, like I think about New West, you know, some of those kids are survival day to day. And
When
maybe
they
we
can, they might need to now.
And yeah, and we extenuating circumstances, and so we do have 3 high schools, and so just want to make sure that this policy covers the gamut of all. So thanks for answering those questions.
Mr. Chairman, when I look at the bottom and it talks about graduation ceremony, can you give me an example of why a student would not be allowed to participate in the graduation ceremony?
I presumed if they were in boot camp or something and unable was the top reason, but no, the graduation ceremony is a privilege and not a right, is that what
I
you're asking
understand
about?
that, but yeah, I'm just wondering, so your son or daughter graduates early. Is there a reason, you know, that maybe they wouldn't be allowed to be in there and somebody comes up, Mr. Pearson, I thought your son graduated,
in
you
this
said
class.
we did, well, he wasn't at the graduation ceremony. So is there a particular reason why that's in there?
That's an excellent question. I can't
I
think
think
of
one of the examples that was thrown out there at the committee meeting was perhaps that individual's incarcerated. They can still have the credits to graduate, maybe that would be an example of where you would not be able to attend the ceremony.
we can
I-
dig into that a little further.
It's far-fetched.
I'm just reading that again real quick here, yeah, sorry, yeah.
So the reality is, and I'll just answer the question in summary, that is, commencement ceremonies are a privilege, all right? It's not a requirement. There's a lot of people that feel the graduation ceremony is a requirement. It's not, it's a privilege. So there will be circumstances where, in the best interest of not only the student, but the graduation ceremony, depending on what this, that comes back to administration being able to have that authority to say, it is a privilege, okay? It's not a requirement by the district. It's similar to activities and of that nature. It's a privilege to walk across the stage. It means that, you know, there's protocols that have to be followed. It's being able to establish those protocols, and if they don't want to follow those protocols, then again, our job is to make sure they have the diploma walking across. So the ceremonies are basically, it's a commencement activity that is a privilege for people to participate in under our expectations, because it is a class act. I mean, it's one of those things that grandparents and everybody comes to, and there's a certain level of protocol. So it is a ceremony. It is a privilege, it's not a requirement. And again, every time we get a pickle like this, first thing they come back to is say, where's that policy? Well, it's right here. Again, commencement activities are a privilege, not the responsibility of the district.
Other questions, comments on this one? Hearing none. Hearing none. All in favor of approving IKFA, early graduation, signify by saying, on first reading, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Okay. Next up, policy EFAI, student wellness. This is one we had to modify when we changed the credits, if I recall correctly.
So Travis, with all these policies we have here, somehow they either touched it
Or approach that.
or it's a part of it. So a lot of this has to do with also wellness. It impacts Ricky and some other things, but that physical education piece of it is kind of where it came into play when we started talking about number of credits for high school, but more importantly, the number of hours in the elementary. So
Okay.
there were some changes and discussion around what that looks like.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve policy. It is changed from EFAI to EFA.
Oh, correct. Good call.
The first reading, as presented.
Got a motion and a second, Annette and Reed. Okay, now we can break this thing down some.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
So I guess my biggest question is, there's this policy and then the next one, and they look so similar. Like, why are we not combining them?
We are.
It is
Oh, okay,
That's what we
perfect.
want to do. One was the policy and one was the regulation, so we do want to merge them together to be one.
Okay, so then both of them, I feel like have a little like conflicting.
Yeah,
Like, are we doing 50 minutes of physical activity or 225? And it's only 50. That seems pretty little. So why are we, and who chose 50 minutes? I guess where did that?
So 50 is based on PE classes, okay? Because the rest of it was based on recess time and some other things. So you can still have that physical activity, but protecting physical education classes, which in that, what that looks like is making sure at least 50 minutes of that time is actual PE classes, okay? What you had with the previous schedule is, which you'll go back up to the top, is we're in a situation where master schedules were basically not flexible because of this is the only one where there were certain requirements that were allowed with that. So you can go above and beyond. So it's a minimum of 50 minutes of PE aligned with standards. Gives the principals a little more flexibility. Just an example, you go out to recess, you come back in, and then you only have a block for, literacy time because the board has a policy that says you have to do so much physical activity. So we wanted to keep PE class sacred, and that was part of that. But again, it's just the bare minimum, and then gives the administrators that ability to flex their schedules to meet the needs of the kids. Doesn't say that's all we're going to do throughout the day. It doesn't limit us to be able to change our schedules or flex some things as we go through that. So it's just the bare minimum.
So when this comes back next month, will these two actually be one together? Or are they just continually going to be separate, but yet we say they're kind of together? These two, this policy and the next one.
So they did have one related to the other, or to actually try to get them merged? Or get them merged into one total?
Mr. Chairman, do we presently have a wellness committee? Because I think it says we're going to create a wellness committee.
I saw that in here too.
So we do not have an official operating wellness committee.
So is that something that's going to be together?
Revisiting policy, if that's what you want, we will be putting.
Well, that's what it
That's
says.
what I'm saying. That's every policy we're bringing to the table. So.
Can I talk about this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this policy directly affects my program. I don't have to be in charge of any of this, but when they come do the administrative review, this is a piece that they are going to look at. And so this policy that you guys are looking at is exactly what the state is saying we have to have in there. Can you scroll down toward the bottom, please? But then where this starts and all of this essentially becomes our goals and what we're going to do. And with that, so we do have to have a committee, and then the progress on all of the goals is, and then it's including all of these PE, and then the nutrition education, and then whatever that last one is. One more. There we go. The other school-based activities. we have to have progress on all PE goals gathered annually so that a triennial assessment can be formed. And so we just need to kind of make that as simple but thorough as possible so that we can fulfill this requirement. Does that make sense? So actually once Heidi got this all typed up, I sent this off to our regional rep at the state that I have to work with, and that is going to be coming to do the AR. And so she has given us suggestions and all of that. So this right here would be approved. But she did recommend maybe you go back down to, sorry, the beginning of the committee stuff. She would recommend combining a couple of these, like 5 and 6 looked like there was. Did we fix that part? We fixed that. So Heidi's already fixed her suggestion. So this right here would be approved, and I would not get a finding. So, but we do have to come up with that committee and do the annual assessments and triennial assessment. And then we have to advertise our results on our website.
Mr. Chairman, so Vicki, it doesn't say how many people have to be on your committee, so it could be, looks to me like it could be two or three, yeah. So the other thing I want to, and I think maybe to align with what Marcia's saying is, on the next policy, if we're going to combine them, and I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but if we're going to combine them on physical education and activities, in number 5, it talks about physical education courses will be required for all students in grade K, and then it's scratched out.
It's 9.
10 scratch to go to 9. So K 10 through 9.
Okay, it doesn't say that there, so we just need to make sure that we do that.
Yeah, but we can check that.
Okay, so just.
It does say.
But he might be in the next one down.
So on the next
Other
one,
policies,
Heidi,
I saw that.
We just combine it, we'll clean it up.
Yes.
Yeah, if we combine it, just
We'll
the
clean that up and
inconsistencies is
try
all
to
I'm
be
trying to bring
consistent.
forward.
Good call.
So the next one, we just are completely eliminating. It's already been put into this one. And then the next one, that -R, just needs to be, you guys just need to eliminate.
Well, that'll help out. So K through 9.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, can I maybe answer? So, Marcia, did I kind of answer your question? Because maybe I confused everybody. This does not take away. It's really allowing PE teacher to have an established amount of PE time. But the difference in the wording was physical activity compared to physical education. So we really outlined physical education. The other part that this allows administrators to do is, if you look at new legislation, there's a huge focus on the amount of literacy time. And there's, if we reduce the number of days that we're allowed to teach, and then that increases what we have to do K-5 with literacy and some of our other standards. It's just giving administrators some flexibility to meet the needs of their schedules with their kids. So anyway, it's just allowing us to meet the needs of the kids based on foreseen law changes, but it really does keep that focus of, I think, what the intent of the policy was, to make sure kids are active and there's some type of physical education, but it also aligns the standards when it says K, instead of K-10, it's K-9. Okay.
Other questions, discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor of approving the renamed EFA on first reading as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay. And finally, the one that we're going to strike and combine. So this will be combined with what was EFAI and is now EFA, the student wellness one. Do we have a motion on this one?
Just delete it. Just say
You're just wanting to
delete
get
it
rid
and
of
combine
this.
it with the other.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to delete policy EFAIR, student wellness regulation, and combine it with policy, EFA, student wellness.
Second.
There is no I in it.
So we've got we're gonna take that off when we rename it.
Okay.
So we've got a motion and a second. Marcia and Benito, discussion. Yeah. Okay, so discussion part one. It will all be called EFA when we're done with this. Okay. Other questions on this one? We sort of raised it in the last one. Discussion or questions on striking this EFAI-R? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay. All right, next up, we've got an LRP conference request by a board member. We need to send a board member out of state to a training.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
I make a motion to approve the LRP conference request by a board member per board policy, BIA, board member orientation, professional development, and out-of-state travel.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'll second that.
We've got a motion and a second. Lynette and Dave, discussion on this one. I have been to one of these. They really do help you understand a ton of what's going on in the special ed world.
So I do have this one. I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here because I know like trainings are really important and I love that we are educating ourselves. I know we've sent people twice to these as long as I've been on the board here. How is this tying into our mission and what are we truly bringing back? And like, are we educating? Are we the ones going to, like Craig, is he here? I don't know. And saying these are the laws we need to follow. And I guess I think it's great that they're going because they're applying all of that. But if we're not, is that just because we want to go and learn for ourselves? And so I'm happy for that, but maybe not on the schools budget.
So Marcia, to answer that question, we asked Benito to go with us because he is the BOCES representative assistant. So he sits on that BOCES board, which is part of the special ed understanding of the rules and regulations behind that piece. So him and Craig both sit on a board that it will impact just having that knowledge of what this conference looks like. So
and that answers my question
that's the role that we
I would
asked
like us to actually use that, you know, to help the district and not just go to, because you want to educate yourself on it. And I mean, that's great if you do, but I'd like it to have.
So I just feel like I need to answer the question because I was the one that said, hey, because you're going to be on this board, you and Craig are going to be on the board. I feel this is one of those conferences that has all the legalities tied behind it. I also feel that as a board, you need to have a representative that understands the legality of special ed. So that's why we did ask Benito to go.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
As a former attendant to the LRP conference, last year, in fact, I went and attended one of the classes that I attended was on Title IX. And a lot of the legalities and changes that are coming within Title IX was something that I brought back forth when we had a Title IX policy review and a parental rights review. And so pieces that I took my year of attending, I did bring back to the board, and it was useful and helpful when we were implementing policy.
Doing that and updating as needed.
So again, great questions, great clarification to why, and we're not just sending them out to, we have a oath to bring them back, so that will be part of the process.
That's fair too. Other questions or discussion on this one? Hearing none. All in favor of approving signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Righto. All right, general reports. Mr. Superintendent, you want to start off with our spotlight?
Let's go with our spotlights. Clear Creek Middle School.
Please.
Mr. Classic, you were.
All right. Thank you so much. Proud to introduce Mrs. Camino, Mr. Morris, who will be talking about the We the People social studies program we're doing with our 8th graders. and two young ladies who have been involved with this and talk about what they're learning from this. Grace Groskop and Lexi Acey and Joy. They're doing a great job, and they're showing that Clear Creek Middle School is leading the charge in the state of Wyoming on this. So we're excited to have you. Thank you so much.
So Jake, when you flashed the thing up about the day of the life, I didn't catch all that in the day of the life. But we're here to share some fun stuff that we have going on first. Just to kind of reintroduce, I'm Kathy Camino, and this is my partner in crime, Coy Morris. Between the two of us, we see every student at Clear Creek Middle School. We are the social studies department, or as we say now, professional learning community. So over the summer and this past spring, when we hired Mr. Morris, he was ready to hit the ground running right off the bat. And we started communicating as soon as he got hired and met several times over the summer. So I see all of the 6th graders, Coy sees all of the 7th graders, and then between the two of us, we have all of the 8th graders. We split the 8th graders. So the 8th grade curriculum is civics. And once we get to about this time of year, February, we get into the Constitution. So since Mr. Morris and I have all of the same students, we want to make sure that we have what's called a guaranteed and viable curriculum, that no matter which one of us the kids have, they're getting those same standards and meeting those same objectives. So over the summer, we got together and I shared my curriculum map with Coy so he could kind of see what I'd been doing with the 8th graders. And I said, I pulled a lot of the learning objectives and the big ideas, essential questions from the We the People program. It's like, really? The guy I just got done student teaching under in Laramie is the new head for We the People and is working for the L. Bogan Foundation. Could we meet with him and talk about how this might fit into what we do with 8th graders? So before school started in August, Andy Panel, who Coy had student taught under, came and the three of us sat down and looked at what the scope and sequence is for 8th grade. And it was, Andy's excited, he's in a new position. He wanted 2 people that would be willing to kind of branch out and do some new things with him. So what we came up with is, in addition to giving all the 8th graders the citizenship test at the end of the year, we will be the first middle school in the state of Wyoming that will have a We the People competition. It is already pretty popular throughout the state at the high school level. Sheridan always seems to dominate that. We're going to change that. But we are, to get this started, Andy is going to come and he's going to work with Coy and I. We've already been in contact with him a lot to train some judges here at the local level, different community members. And as the kids are building their body of knowledge, they got a lot in the fall. This spring, it'll really be jam-packed. The culminating event will be this competition where teams of kids from Coy's room go up against teams of kids from my room, and then there's a community panel of judges that listen to the kids. So I guess I could, how's this go, Heidi?
Yeah, it's the opposite of what you think.
There we go. So we'll be the first school to do that. And again, this is all, we saw the L. Bogan Foundation represented here earlier this evening. With Andy's support, we've developed that vision together. And then he has a lot of resources that he can use. He's providing a We the People program for both Coy and I to use in our room, and then training. And we also have some young ladies that here in a moment are going to share a sample of some of the learning from this. So, Coy, I'll let you take the next one. Whoop. There we
Okay,
go.
awesome, yeah. So one of the things that we really want to continue in student roles in schools is we want them to be constitutionally literate. We want students to be able to be engaged, especially if it's a civics class. We are teaching young citizens, and I think that's something that we're losing, of course, as we grow into a technological age. And so when I was fortunate enough to go under Andy, mentor under him in Laramie, and one taking over a couple of positions down there, he really reached out about We the People to me. He informed me that it was his last year, and he said, I really want you to take these books. I want you to come and look at them with me. And so I went in and examined the curriculum, and I really found it to be things that I even missed. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm a little young. And I actually graduated high school a little less than 4 years ago. So I can tell you that even from my own education over in Gillette, that I was missing some of these pieces that fortunately we provides. Okay? So We the People has a curriculum map that aligns very, very well with learning targets set by this district and by you all. An example would be one of these right here. This is Unit 2, which is focused on such a question of what shaped the founders' thinking about government, and then it goes into the learning directions of what rights were most valued by American colonists as reflected in the Declaration of Independence. When we introduced this to our classes, we wanted to be able to have a fun curriculum. And so to do that, we want the students to be able to implement something. So to be able to model this, we had students create an invitation. Okay, so the Declaration of Independence has just been signed. You are tasked with inviting delegates and people to a celebration dinner to announce everything about the Declaration of Independence. What are you going to say? Are you going to talk about the ideals, the complaints, the grievances? How are you going to communicate this to the people? And so, if you guys would like to come on, please.
If you'll switch over to the girls as a presentation.
We do have a paper for each of you guys. Kathy will be passing them out to outline this.
So this is Lexi,
Yeah.
Lexi AC and Grace Groscott, and the girls were kind enough. There were so many fun ones, and I have to admit, not just their content, but the music got me at the end. So that you all have an idea of, you're welcome, what the girls were tasked with as they're demonstrating their knowledge of the Declaration of Independence. They had to write a two-part speech, the first part being about what's in the Declaration, the second part being about what the man of the hour, Thomas Jefferson, who was the primary author, and they're going to invite all the people in the land to find out about this.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am proud to declare that our country's very own independence has been declared. The letter we sent to King George has been delivered. We are now a free country.
The letter written to King George is a groundbreaking document. It declared that King George was no longer in charge. It has given our country many amazing benefits. These countless benefits have improved our country exponentially. These benefits include no more unnecessary taxes, no more monarchy, and no more unfairness, more self-government, and giving people a vote, more human rights, and a social contract with the government. King George violated our rights and did not give the people a say or respect them. Future generations will be even further benefited by this document because they will have all their natural rights and be respected by the government.
I would now like to raise a toast to the reason we are all here today, Mr. Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was a brave man. He was willing to stand up for independence. He was wise, sharing his canons of conduct with the younger generations. Jefferson was a man of relentless curiosity, and he was fascinated by the world around him. Even though this man may seem awkward in person, he was really very philosophical. He was in fact very attached to the idea of independence. Mr. Jefferson was smart enough to know that his idea would never go through to King George if he was the only one who signed it.
So he and 55 other men, most of which are here today, signed our very own Declaration of Independence.
So you are invited to our celebration dinner on July 4th, and there will be many options for food and drink.
Who will be there? Thomas Jefferson and other esteemed delegates. Where? In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or in Miss Camille's class. We will be celebrating the signing of the Declaration of Independence and our freedom. When? On July 4th, 1776 at 6 p.m. Why? The United States has gained independence from Great Britain in 1904.
So for our menu, there are like many main dishes for meat. So you can have pork, beef, lamb, fish, and chicken. They will also offer sides like corn, beans, vegetables, fruit, and wild rice. And there will also be drinks like cider, beer and wine, and water. And Thomas Jefferson's favorite food, mac and cheese.
So we got got the chance to choose songs that we think really represented the Declaration of Independence and how it gave us our freedom. And my song I chose was I Want You Back by the Jackson 5 because it's King George asking for the colonists to come back and be a part of Britain.
The song I chose was You'll Be Back from Hamilton, and I thought it's the song from King George's perspective that he was singing, that he wanted the colonists to come back to him and that they were his property and that he wanted them back and that he would miss them when they were gone.
Songs?
Oh, look, do you grab some of their little snippets?
Celebrating 50 years of music, featuring Arcade 5, 52, Backstreet Boys, Bad Bunny, Bonnie Raitt, Randy Carlisle, Chris Martin.
Price of my life, not the price that you're willing to pay. But you were the sea, but you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. Be back, soon you'll see.
Do the second one.
Right. So we the people that what we'll be doing at the end of the year, and Lexi and Grace just gave us an example, all the knowledge that they're building at the end of the year, the kids don't know what question they're going to get. And so there will be 6 different questions. One team from each of our classes will be assigned those questions, and the kids have to work collaboratively in small groups to create a presentation where they'll have a 4-minute presentation that they give to this panel of judges that Andy will train, and then they have to be prepared because those judges can question them for 6 minutes. And so this is really good practice for the kids to show what they know about what we've been learning, but also some good teamwork as well.
And as Kathy had mentioned too, Andy is representing the L. Bogan Foundation right now. While there are competitions that will be held in Cheyenne and also ones in our own community, we have opportunity sponsored by the L. Bogan Foundation to also send kids to national competitions and have national representation that wouldn't come out of our pocket. Next part is the community outreach. We're very fortunate that the program allows for community outreach. So Andy is very kind as he would come and whatever members of the community we were able to bring into our classroom to join with the students, he would be able to train them up in any way, shape, or form that we need to be able to best guide their learning and also to guide, to prove their knowledge. One example that we hope to have would be Ben Kerben. Ben Kerben is a judge who has emailed us about coming in and we want you to speak to our classes to show the kids some of these new pieces of social movement as how the courts make decisions and such. Anyways, as he becomes a guest speaker, I'll probably try and rub off on him to see if he'll get into the classroom a little bit and challenge our kids. But again, if you were to come in, we have the sources available and the support available to be able to have a structured environment for our kids.
So we were excited when Ben reached out to us. He didn't know what he was getting into because now we're going to rope him into getting to being a judge too. But he said that he's going to the high school to talk to the kids, and he threw out some questions for us that we're toying around with. So in addition to the objective that Lexi and Grace just presented, we'll be able to address another of the We the People standards that talks about the separation of powers and what specific powers or responsibilities are assigned to each branch. So we're glad to have Ben being willing to do that. We just see a lot of opportunities for more community involvement through that.
Nice. So the big plus here is that Buffalo has an opportunity to spearhead a citizen initiative within the whole state of Wyoming. And there are other schools too that have, after we have started looking at this, they're also starting to look at this. There are middle schools in Casper that are starting to look at this, as well as some in the northwestern part of the state. So we have that opportunity. And as we expand on this, we hope to have a habitual student-led organization within the schools that want to be able to be a part of this. This creates culture, and culture is something that, as you can see, is slowly being drained from our societies and from our kids. You know, I see the kids so much less engaged with the community compared to when I was a child. So I mean, and I can't imagine compared to you guys. So anyways, it's very important. I'm not, you guys are spring chickens.
I can come talk with the administration.
Well, we will have the winners from our local, at this point, the kids will get some local recognition, but as we help grow this, at the high school level, kids go to nationals in DC. What we envision with Andy and kind of what we developed is when there's a school winner from each district, all of the middle schools would go on to Cheyenne to the state capital and compete. So that's what we're growing toward and are excited about. A little bit about We the People at Clear Creek Middle School.
Awesome.
I'm really excited about this because, as you know, I've had 3 kids go through this, and this is big, this is huge, and I think it's something more of our kids need to keep learning about growing up through the high school, because like you said before, like, we're becoming so digitized that I think sometimes we socially do not give our kids the best outlet of like how our government works, because the processes are social media and things like that, and this is super cool. I'm really excited. So. Good presentation, girls.
Yes, well
I've
done.
sat brutally through the construction of 3 kids doing this, and you guys did a great job.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, questions for the principals. Principals reports,
Mr. Chair.
please.
Mr. Glassick.
Yes.
I just have to make a comment on, it was really interesting in your board report about the tardies that you had. Those numbers were like insane, phenomenal. And a piece just, part of that kind of got me going and thinking. I am part of that communication committee, and just that data piece of those tardies. I mean, I'm sure there's a gamut of reasons, whether it's first thing in the morning that they're tardy to school, or if it's in between classes, because I don't know what your passing period time is, but that might be something that we may approach principals and being like, what do your tardies look like in between your class period you're changing times when you're going class to class. Just thinking out of the box. So thanks for that data and kudos. Right on.
Well,
I like the accountability piece.
It's a school-wide effort. Something again, getting kids in class, finding ways to be more prepared, getting from one far end of the building down to the wood shop and getting back, and how to make that a little more successful. And it's working. So we're going to keep working away. JCSD put all that together, but our teachers are helping that process. They're part of that whole thing after school. And our kids are adjusting, and it's improved dramatically. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Glassick, also at the bottom of your report, you put Clear Creek 25 happenings, and you have the basketball schedule listed. It would really be helpful, and maybe that's somewhere else in the school, if you told people where they were.
Okay.
It tells you who you're playing, but it doesn't say if it's at home.
Okay, I just assumed that people knew it'd be at Clear Creek Middle School because those are our home games.
Those are all at home.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but good point. We'll just make sure we put a CCMS in there.
Thanks, Ron.
Okay. Totally get it.
Principal Evans, Mitch Kraft came up for a work session and told us KC is putting on clinics in how to do PLCs. Well, it sounds like it's going very good down there. What is your secret sauce? How are you guys pulling that off?
I have a really good team. I'm going to put it that way. So what Mitch Kraft got to witness was teams that were led by a couple teachers that had started 7 years ago with Solution Tree on PLC training. Okay, and so the great thing that Mitch got to see was two different ways of doing PLCs. One was over academics, a vertical alignment, 3rd grade through 5th grade for ELA, and the other one was completely off of the academic side and more into the profile of a graduate and going into what are our kids going to be able to do when they go out of here. So that work-based learning experience. And so it was really awesome to have him see both sides of those, because a lot of times when we get into looking at PLCs, we think, well, PLCs has to be all academics, and assessment, and no, it doesn't have to be. It's just a common goal for the team to address, whether it's through the profile of graduate or through curriculum and assessment. So that's what he got to say.
Well, thank you, and pass well done to the team.
I will.
I sure was proud of what you guys had going.
They're an awesome group of people. They keep me on my toes.
Other questions for the principals, anybody?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ostheimer, I love the video on the simulator.
Yeah, that was neat.
So how long do they do the simulator before they actually, I believe you told me there was going to be a truck that comes down from Sheridan and they'll
There
actually
is.
drive?
So they do 15 hours in the simulator,
Wow.
and that's hours. It's pretty amazing if you get a chance to swing by when the kids are in there. There's a camera on the student driver as well as what the student's seeing out the windshield, so that the instructor can watch the student's response and reaction time and all of those things as well. And the time starts when the camera on the student is turned on. So they're in the seat doing the thing for time.
To reiterate, I think the trades are great because we need them. So thank you.
Well, it was interesting. I mean, one of the students was driving through a blizzard, and the instructor in the back touches a button on the computer and he blows the right front tire of the truck to find out on an icy road what the student
How you handle that?
You know, where would they find an icy road with a blizzard?
I don't know.
And that's the trailer. They have one parked down at Palmer Mountain, but they have the second one up at your place, right?
Yep. And it's set up and it's running. And
How long do we get to keep that? It's Sheridan's, right? Is it?
They have two of them.
Okay.
And they're transferring back and forth, but right now they're committed to the kids at Buffalo High School with that piece.
yeah, so it'll be there for the remainder of our semester.
Good. Yeah.
The other one, I guess, is stuck at Palmer Mountain.
That's
I'm
what
not
I
sure
heard
why.
too.
Yes.
Anybody else got questions for the principals? Okay, next up, ops team. Questions for facilities, nutrition, transport today? Oh, the ops team got off cheap this time. That's not right. Somebody pick on them. All right, hearing none. Admin, district admin reports. Mr. Superintendent, you want to highlight some of yours?
So, for me, it's not necessarily highlight because somebody is retiring, but I do want to bring it to the, we have an interview team set up, a committee. We've selected 4 people. On the 17th, we will be conducting interviews and doing a community forum. So we invite the board members, if you could, to attend that. But that did go out district-wide. So that's one of the things that we have just kind of happening here. And it's not too far away. But in my board report, I did kind of outline the timelines and the rest of what that process looks like. There will be some big shoes to fill in that position. So the committee is 17 strong and a lot of input from a lot of different people. So we will kind of continue down that road, but that is one of the things on my board report. I'm assuming the board's going to talk a little bit about legislative trip. I will talk a little bit about kind of where we're at with legislation happening a little bit later, but unless there's questions from you as a board of trustees, I would strongly encourage, there is a PLC video and a collective teacher efficacy video. If you haven't watched that, that will give you some insight to some of the things we're doing quite also. Okay?
Fair enough. Questions for the super? Clarifications on anything in that report? All right. Anybody else from the district admin?
Mr. Chairman, so Dr. Miller, and I went through the calendar committee. So, and I haven't, Charles will have to help me with the bill because I haven't seen where it went, but they have a bill to go to school from Memorial Day or Labor Day to Memorial Day. If that did indeed pass, would you have to go back and adjust the calendar?
You basically, not starting over, but we definitely have to throw out these recommendations and figure it out. So we're just waiting to see what happens.
And Charles, where is that at? Do you know if they voted on it?
Well, if it's like everything else that's moving through the, and it's going to be passed.
I kind of think it is.
I didn't get a chance to look at legislative updates as of today.
So and I don't mean
there's 2 options if that does pass.
So some minor interruptions, and if you do that, we're going to shorten the days. But will you have to shorten some vacation time? What are you thinking, or you'll just have to wait until?
We'll probably get some advice from what other districts are going to possibly do. You could do an alternative calendar. We will have to meet back up and
But they may want to get advice from you, Dr. Miller.
Yeah.
We can be a collaborative unit trying to figure things out, I think. But quite honestly, we're just going to have to figure out what does that look like and what's going to be best for our students and for our teachers. So I know we always say that for everything, but I don't want to just keep pigeonhole the committee in one thing.
Okay.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that moves through legislation.
Was language in that allowed us to apply for an alternate. So
we will have 2 options. Let's just be very clear. We'll have 2 options. We can continue with what this committee and what we recommend, and we can apply for an alternative calendar and we can move forward. Or we can go back to the drawing board and see what those parameters are. My biggest concern is if it passes, we're eliminating 15 days of potential classified staff employment. We have to fall within those time restraints. So if we do even go with an alternative calendar, again, it's 15 days more, and it's going to come into recalibration this summer. I'll be to the public and everybody else. This is something that we will get through the first year, but I'm almost assuming that will come back through recalibration, that if you're 15 days less, then the model needs to fund differently or fund less. So it does have a financial impact eventually down the road, but we will have 2 options. We readjust the calendar according to the legislative law, or we just adopt an alternative calendar for you.
What exactly does that mean, the alternative calendar?
So that means we just take the calendars that get approved in March and we submit to the state and say this is what we want to do, and the State Board of Education would approve it.
And even though there's a bill that says that you're going to go from Labor Day to Memorial Day, you don't have to follow that?
That bill says you can apply for an alternative calendar. Okay. So the bill states in there that you do have that second option of continuing with what you're doing and applying for that alternative piece.
Okay, thank you.
Which Dr. Hansen and Jake already apply for.
Very good.
Charles, okay. So with the funding on that, I just want to make sure I'm making this clear. clear. So if we would keep that calendar 15 days stay, we will get extra funding.
I'm just saying right now it doesn't impact us, but I'm saying at recalibration, there's a potential they'll come back and say you are working 15 days less.
Yeah.
Okay, and what that looks like. However, if we do adopt that calendar, okay, our budget would probably look a lot different because there's going to be 15 less days for classified staff. So that's your food service, your paras, all those type of. So we would have to look at that impact. That work would automatically go away. But the funding behind the scenes will be something we really have to watch with recalibration this summer. So it's not as simple as just preservation of summertime. We could spend 2 hours talking about every ramification and ripple that comes out of this simple legislative policy, but it's not simple. I will tell you probably where I will stand, but we'll bring a group of people together as we go for an alternative calendar so we can keep people. It's going to be hard enough to keep people. If you're going to reduce the number of days, we're going to have to look at something. So it's not days. It's going to be what's best for not only our kids, but what's best for our employees. Here's the other ramification. You haven't even begun to start to talk about what their expectations are for literacy. Okay. So ramping up those hours, whether you have to have 70 hours of instructional time during the summer, the number of hours during a day, what IRPs look like. So there's just a lot of things out of this legislation that we'll have to wrap our heads around with. And it will all tie back to calendars and time and funding. And not enough time tonight to talk about it. So.
Yeah, and quite a bit to study on what ended up passing. Other questions? All right, next up, board level reports. Rec board? Got it.
So April 18th is the deadline for grant applications. April 18th, isn't that what I said?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You're good.
All
I
right.
was repeating it so I remember.
Okay. That's all I have from them.
Okay.
We're almost finished up. I think there's a couple people left to submit their grants.
Okay.
So Marcia, is this a good time just to kind of remind everybody we're talking about legislation, but not only with the rec district, but with BOCES and everything else, is with that tax reduction. There's a potential that these special revenues are going to be a lot less in the future too. So just a PR piece for people to understand that you as a board, this will have a huge impact on you guys and some of the other funding we have, even with BOCES when it comes to concurrent and dual enrollment, some of those programs. So. Okay.
OC's report.
Well,
Benito, is that you?
He didn't get to step in because Craig was there. They did hire somebody, and the person they hired was the business manager. So then I think they're looking for a business manager. So that's the report we have at this time.
Okay. I assume you'll hide Connie somewhere safe for a while. BOCES.
So we had a meeting on January 30th. It was Charles was there, pretty short, simple meeting, just went over the financials. BOCES does not hold money. So basically they showed the money coming in and the money going out. Like I said, we don't hold money, so very little interest income. Was there anything else you picked up from that meeting, Charles?
No,
it was pretty simple.
We had more conversation about legislation.
Yeah, it took longer to get the meeting than they had.
All
It's
right.
a requirement. So
Yeah, I knew they had to present
Sure.
financials.
But Dave, I'll speak to I think you guys are doing a great job. It's a lot. I think it's focused. Here's what it is.
Oh, I think so. Yeah,
Yes, you guys have been doing a great job.
It's short and sweet, yeah. But get to the meat, yeah. Mhm. Yes, sir.
Okay, so from the board, these guys went down with Charles and the team and me to go to the legislature and lobby and talk to the senators and congressmen about some of these changes. Questions, guys? How did you feel? What did you think?
Well, for me, Mr. Chairman, I think that we all need to be extremely proud of our state capitol that live in Wyoming. That is a beautiful building. It represents Wyoming really well. I want to give special thanks out to Jessica Kavitz, who was the Milken recipient a few years ago. We had Kelsey Warren that came down. We had Amber McClure. I really appreciate those ladies coming down, taking time to go and argue the bills, if you will,
Yeah.
I guess, and speak to them. Thanks to all you guys for going, and Charles, thanks for taking us down there for me. And we just got done talking about civics, and civics was great in 7th and 8th grade. I don't remember anything about it because I wasn't interested in it. But as you go when you're older, you really start understanding. You have committees send it to the Senate or the House, and then when they get done, they send it back and forth, and then it finally goes to the governor to approve or veto. And I thought it was a great trip. It was a good learning experience. And Charles, thank you for testifying in some of the committees, school funding. We also got to visit with the Crago family, which is good, and Lily Crago. I'm so proud of her from Johnson County. The work that she's doing down there, everybody knows her, and no doubt she will be in there one of these days representing Johnson County.
I'm confident you're right. She's working hard down there. Charles, you had thoughts on this one?
I'm just going to send a kudos out to going down there. We've done that for the last, 2 years, 3 years?
3 years.
We've done it kind of this rotation. We go down, we visit with Senator Crago now, not Representative Crago. He does a great job of bringing us up to speed, kind of telling us where we're at. The next day we had an opportunity for the Capitol, but when we sit down and we talk about bills with Crago Sunday morning, and then that really, I think, prepped us for the WSBA training. We was very excited for you as a board of trustees, how you were not only talking with legislators when they actually showed up, but your relationships that you had with other board members, just asking those questions. That was a neat part of what that evening was. And then again, Monday at the Capitol, which you guys got to see the process. You got to see what testimony is like. You just jump up, you get it done, and you go from there. But what I would like to add to it next year is if our 3 teachers from Level Up are going down, it was kind of a last minute notice on my part that I started on Friday night, is trying to get them, didn't know they were going down at the same time. Because I thought that was a great collaboration between you and them as teachers.
So good.
Getting them to the legislative dinner, inviting them to be a part of the process. So to strengthen what we're doing down there, with the board's permission, we'll try to get them involved if they're going down at the same time, and actually have them go through that process with us. So I appreciate all the time and effort. God was looking after us because the roads were good all the way down, and they were good until we got outside of Buffalo. So
most of the way home.
Bill's comment early that morning, there's snow here, Charles. And I said, there ain't snow here. We got through that, so I appreciate your time and effort with that. We did interview, she also did interview me for her new podcast, which I thought went very well. Said she did a great job with that, so kudos to her. Just like what Dave said, she's doing a great job with that. So,
something that never gets recognition, and I think about it, is we had staff that went down there, and it takes substitutes to fill in for those people. And so I want to thank the people that fill in for these people and help out. That's awesome that they can get away from their job.
And everybody needs to hear, this wasn't like 9 o'clock in the morning. We're up at 6 o'clock in the morning. They joined us before the diner opened because Charles is always early to everything. So it was a great experience. So it was, and you were healthy and good now.
Survived and all that.
There was a lot of germs down there, and I brought some of them home.
The only thing is, I know Representative Conley was upset that she was sick and couldn't join us through that process, but we'll catch her next year.
Yeah.
And to add to what you were saying about the, civics class was however long ago it was, and actually being down there and getting to see it helps understand what's coming our way. And especially like the tour that we did with Senator Crago. Not just, this is how a bill becomes a law. He took us, he said, this is where we do this, and then we move over to there, and then it goes over to the other side of the building, and we walked over there, so it was very informative.
And we only got lost once.
And so to add on to what you say, it's awesome what they're doing in seventh grade, but it also seems like you need a refresher course in high school.
Fair
Yeah,
point.
if you have any interest. So.
Lots of stairs.
Yes, good stair climbers. Also, the board had the Covey leadership training this Friday and Saturday. We spent some time down there studying and listening and trying to learn and grow. Anybody got comments or thoughts on that one? It was particularly good training they had. How long was that board member? 16 years and one of the biggest ones in Washington?
No, it was like 20.
Yeah,
He was on the board for 20 years, chairman for 16.
20, yeah.
Chairman for 16, yeah.
So, and does Covey
He knew
board
stuff.
leadership training around the world. He's not just doing it there. So super grateful. Those of you that see the presenter on Saturday, that's the guy that got me excited in Casper. He does have a passion, and it was good training overall. Both presenters did a good job. I think the second day brought a whole nother level.
Yeah, different perspective.
Different perspective because of his experience as a board member and board chair, which brought the board members from other districts having communication. I know you did a lot of talking with some other board members. Mitch Kraft is super excited about what he learned to bring back to our board with what we're doing. So overall, thank you for attending. If you could, it was good.
Yeah, it was.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
Charles, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to go to that training. I thoroughly enjoyed, I did not thoroughly enjoy the book. It was a little tough read for me, and I think the reason that it was a tough read for me was that I saw a lot of things pointing back at myself that I can apply within my business, as being a mother, as being a wife, as being a school board member. And so it was a tough read, and it was really nice to be able to tie that in with what the training was. I especially loved Friday night. We got to do a lot of talking and collaborating as tables. I want to thank the 2 community members that came. Their willingness to take time out of their Friday night when there was lots of fun things going on in Johnson County. I appreciated that, and I appreciated their questions. It was very board specific, so I think at first they were a little like, what's this all about? But they had some really great questions. They had some really great comments. Saturday, I actually sat with Sheridan. I was three. Yeah. I sat with Sheridan 3, and they are a very green board. I think they have one person that has history. The rest of them are all brand new. And so that, to me, that collaboration, they asked me all kinds of questions about like different committees that we have within our board, different processes. And I feel fortunate that I was able to explain those. And I was able to answer a lot. And I told them if there was something that I don't have the answer to, I will always go back and try to find out the answer. And so I'm going to be doing some communicating with a couple of them after I sit down with the superintendent and make sure I have my ducks in a row. So thank you for bringing that, and thank you for going outside of the box and asking people in our community. It's, as we realized, school district is the hub of a community. It's not the only hub, but we're a big hub, and we're an important piece. And if we didn't have schools, lots of communities may dry up. So thanks for that. I enjoyed it.
All right, then lastly, you've all got in front of you, this is for the board right now, but it's kind of this is an idea where we want to focus some priorities and spend some time. We want to discuss this, but because some of it is personnel and policy, we'll have to do most of the discussion in executive. But I just wanted to read this opening line so that anybody listening or tuning in knows that what we're looking at and how we're going to try to proceed. The Johnson County School District #1 Board of Trustees recognizes the importance of strong, effective leadership and communication within our district and with stakeholders regarding the board's educational priorities. We are proud of the work being done by our staff in JCSD 1 to move the district forward in the ever-evolving landscape of public education while maintaining a strong focus on our students. We also want the community and stakeholders to know that we carefully consider concerns and, as a board, actively support the district's process and the role of the Board of Trustees. This document is intended to communicate the board's priorities and expectations to the community and stakeholders. By outlining our priorities below and expectations, we hope to improve communication with our community and give guidance to district leadership. A link to this information will be posted on board docs after the board has had a chance to go over this and finalize it. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that's something we're going to be working on, and we will pass that out and share that when we're sure we've got the document drafted correctly. Anything, Mr. Superman?
No, if you don't mind, I'm going to put my little spiel in with communication with the public and where legislation is headed.
Okay.
So this isn't the sky's falling. The reality is change is coming. It's coming quickly, and we know that there's going to be some legislation that's going to impact not only JCSD #1, but it's going to impact districts around the state. Our focus needs to be at the level of all the great things we've seen here tonight. All the great things you just talked about with training, all those things that are happening. But the reality is I want to speak to you as a board and what I've told some of you, and I'm going to tell the community right now. There are going to be some things that we need to slow the bus down and just make sure no matter what the law is, where it is, we're doing what's best for our district and our kids and not do a knee-jerk reaction as these rules come out. The unfortunate part about that is the timeframes that will be there will be automatic. It'll be as soon as session is out or by July 1st. So our work, my work with you as a board of trustees is going to be processing some of these bills that come through, but we need to prioritize. We still need to hire teachers. We need to still put schedules in place. We still need to put budgets. And some of these rules coming in are going to impact all of that. So just with an understanding that we will with time get where we need to be, but our focus is going to be what's best for our kids and trying to align to what some of those, but the safety of our kids, how we fund our district, and the education we provided. If you are unrealistic in saying current legislation that's going to come through is not going to impact that, I would have to disagree with you. We're going to have some decisions that we will have to make as a board, but as a community, you need to hear my response as a superintendent. We will still do what's best for our kids and kind of navigate these waters that are coming. Fair?
Yes. I believe WEA told us while we were down there was 120 bills they were tracking this session. So it was a phenomenal amount of
most they've ever had on education.
It was.
And Travis, what you need here, the heading on these bills has you don't have any idea the details behind it.
They're very good at
Some of those headings are very non-transparent, and the impacts behind those and what it looks like. All sounds good. You read the heading and you assume that, oh wow, I know what that exactly means. It doesn't mean that, and we have a road to haul, but we will be okay. I want to reiterate. We have a great team. We have great people. We're going to do what's right for our kids, and we'll slow the process down. And if that means arguing some points, I'm willing to argue. So that's where we're at.
All right. Next up, March 5th, special session. This one is in KC. We'll be moving down for our work session to KC on March 5th. We were talking earlier about the coach's guidance and the different.
Yeah, we'll talk about that and kind of where we're at. So we'll kind of establish that schedule. We'll go out with that, but it is in KC. So work session down there, and then the regular meetings back here, correct? That's how I read it. So we have two different things that come out of what that looks like, handbooks and some evaluations. So yeah, let's talk about what that agenda looks like and get that established.
Okay, that sounds good. Then the March 10th board meeting here in Buffalo. We'll get that together and get some comments back, make sure that we've got that lined out, but we will, as usual, do most of the work at the work session. So come down to KC and visit with us. Anything else on those? Anybody got other ideas or needs? Okay. Do we have any public comment this evening? No public comment this evening? All right.
Can I do a PR piece?
Get it.
please, everybody that's watching, please understand that even when it's cold out, we are making good decisions, right? Weather, all that, it starts about 3:30 in the morning. These two gentlemen here are doing a fabulous job. And just be prepared. It's going to be cold, and it's winter. This is Wyoming winter. So slow things down. We are there. We'll be making the best decisions possible early in the morning as we kind of move through these next couple weeks, okay?
All right. With that, we get a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Wyoming Statute 16-4-405, Section A, II, and III, personnel and legal matters.
So moved.
I got a motion and Marcia's a second. Yes, take a fiver, we'll clear the room and go into executive here in just a bit.
It was in my bag.
Thank you.
Here.
Maybe I got the wrong info.
I've got a yellow highlighted one that I don't think necessarily want to sign and push.
Oh, I got the
Yeah.
Hightailing them around.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate your help tonight.
Do we all need to sign?
Yeah, we do. So not after that.
I know, but do you have a, Heidi,
You start. We'll go this way.
John's like, John's like, John, please start my car.
See you guys.
See ya tomorrow.